Here we are back again at Watercolor Studio 42, and this afternoon I'm going to do a little continuation of working with the grid. In other words, working within the squares. Now, what I did for today, it's a little bit different than last time. Last time I had the grid, but I made all the squares the same size. And as I measured it 2 inches, 2-inch squares, or 1-inch squares, whatever it was. And but today I kind of at random still made like the grid pattern, but what I've done here is to vary the different sizes. And what I'm going to try to do, last week I did a profile of the Indian, kind of a takeoff on the old man of the mountains, or the profile rock down in Freetown. But today I'm going to try to do this with doing flowers in the plant pot. Okay? So anyways, I've kind of indicated with pencil where I want the flowers to be located, and what I'm going to have to do is add some stems and fill it in with some leaves here and there. But what you want to do is consider staying if you, within the grid. In other words, if you're making shapes, if you want to make a circle, you take the square and just round off the corners, 4 corners of a square, and you can make a circle. What I'm trying to do is help folks to do artwork when they don't think they can draw that well. You don't have to be able to draw well, but you can work within different patterns and so forth and keep it a little bit easier to do. So anyhow, I put some dots in the middle of some of the bigger squares and some smaller squares. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to go over this with a marker. Normally I would do all of this with a pencil, but I'm going to make some little indentures. This is from this corner to this corner, okay? And we have the dot in the middle. Now you can make that dot a little bit larger if you so desire. Now, to make that into a flower, it's easy. All you have to do is just connect one side to the other. We'll cross like this, stay within the square somewhat. I kind of go, if you go over the line, it doesn't matter. But you see how I made a flower within that little square. Now I've got another one over here about the same size. Why don't we do the same thing? A line coming in towards the dot from this corner, over here, and then just bring it across. In fact, it might look more natural if you did make that line a little bit wavy. So this is a plant that has 4 petals, something like that. Now you can do other things with the particular shapes that you have. I put some more dots. I like to have at least 3 or 4, or I should say 5, uneven numbers. So this could be another smaller plant, and that could be done a little bit different. You can start off and bring those lines and connect to the center. See, these I didn't, but watch what I'm going to do. I'm going to kind of put lines in between now, or something like that. Now you can add as many lines as you want, but what I'm going to do is do what I did there, connect across here. So now we're going to have a plant, a flower, that ends up with, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 petals, okay? Now you can make the center a little bit larger, or you can have some other little lines coming out from the center, some texture like that. See how that works? It makes a nice little flower. Now, I'm going to do another one of those. Let's do that again, bringing in the dot to the center from the corner. Yeah, we got 4 there. Now, I'm going to do the lines in between. I'm going to try to stay within the circle if I can, or the square, I should say. Something like this. See how that works? connect that up. And you want to make this one similar to the one I did over there. Just make the circle in the middle a little bit larger and bring some short lines coming out like sun rays from the center. See how that works. Now, I have put some dots in different locations. So what I've got is 4 of something. And I like an uneven number, so let's put another plant up in here. Let's put a dot in this one. Come in from the center. And like this. This one could be a little bit different if you want. It doesn't have to touch exactly in the middle. But if I do something like that, I want to make some more petals coming in towards the center like this. Let's make another one of those. Maybe we could fit something like that over here. Here's a dot. And I started out like this from the corners. Then some short lines, everything going towards the center as a dot. And then I put some little shorter lines coming in towards the center like this. So those 2 plants look similar. Now, I've got now 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Wow, I still have an even number. But you know, when you start doing this sometimes, you don't have to worry about whether they're even numbers or not. Because a lot of times you have so many flowers, who's going to take the time to count how many flowers you have? So I've got a couple of dots here. I could put another flower in here. Why don't we do that? Make 3 of those. Let's say 1. I'm going to make this a little bit something like this, going towards the center. Then add some more break this up a little bit more into here. There you go. Now, I'm going to make the dots a little larger. Make this one a little bit larger so you can tell that these are similar. Now, down here I got to make the arrangement for plant pot. So I thought I'd start off from this corner, bring it over to here, end up down there to here. So you could draw a freehand if you want, but I'm going to use a ruler. Okay, bring a line down here. Across the bottom, you got to have it flat so it won't tip over. There you go, across the bottom. And up this side. Okay. And just across the top. Okay, I'm going to leave this a little bit open here because I'm going to have some kind of petals coming out, going over the edge. I'm doing this freehand. I said petals, I meant leaves. You make little leaf shapes, like a little shape of an arrow. And let's put some more. Let's fill this in with some sort of leaves up in here, maybe another one over in here. Something coming out over here. Have it go over the edge. Something coming out over this side. You do not have to make it perfectly symmetrical. I got a big opening in the middle here. I don't want to make that look like a wreath, so I've got to put something. Why don't we just make another little dot in there, and let's do something like this. Almost like a clover, and put a little dot in the middle of all that. Not quite even, but a lot of petals aren't that even either. Fill that in. Now, I don't think I have too much room to put some stems, but if you want to show some of the stems coming down, they're going to end up into the pot, whatever you do. And in through here, this connects, that could go all. Here's something I kind of try to avoid stacking, but I end up stacking here. Let's put something coming out over here, another leaf over there. A little bit of show the top edge here. You can put like a little edge on the pot too. Put another little line across here. And if you want, you can draw something falling over the edge of this. Doesn't have to be perfect. Just to fill in that space. Another little shape in there. Kind of just fill it in. Make sure everything's kind of connected, or at least, oops. Let's put a stem coming down. We'll put another little petal out here. Something over here. So what you're doing is just staying within those little square shapes and either making it circular or oval or whatever and whatnot. Now you might want to show the table. I could bring the line straight across the bottom, but what I'm going to do here, I'm going to bring the table, the edge of the back edge of the table up a little bit higher. Let's put a line across here, line across there. There you go. Now, I could probably do a lot more fussy stuff with this particular picture, but the only thing is, the more you put in, the busier it looks, and sometimes it looks better if you don't do as much. So I'm going to stop right there. Now, as far as the color goes, I always, myself personally, I do a background wash, and I'm wearing a yellow shirt today, so let's see if I can mix up some yellow here. I usually start off with a fairly large brush, and I use that Gambo color, and we'll just paint a little bit of that background in. Now you can wet the paper if you want, but if you don't want to bother with that, there's not much background left in here anyways. So we'll make that sort of a softer yellow. Let's drop some color of the wall in between all of this, kind of looking through it like a little, like windows. And so you can do that. Now, when you're working with a grid, I'm doing it today, doing a little pot of flowers. But the thing is, you can do any subjects you want. You've got all that, all the little squares. You can break up the contour and make the skyline of a city. You can make the, instead of making some of these shapes look like flowers, you can make them into trees. You can make them into birds, you know, whatever you want to do with it. It's just an easier way to kind of draw, I think, I hope. Filling in the squares with some shapes. Let's bring that wall. This is my kitchen, by the way. I do have a pale yellow panel kitchen here at home. Not here. But anyways, we'll fill this in. All right, so we got something like this. Oops, fill in a little background there. Now, you can decide whatever color you want to use for the pot. Usually it's a green pot. Most of them are green or a darker color, gray or black or something like that. We'll decide later. The tablecloth can be a checkered pattern, or you can do just a plain regular pattern. So the background's in. Now this is the way I usually do things. I usually start from the back and work to the front. And the last thing I do is the flowers themselves. So next thing I might decide to do down across the bottom of the tablecloth. So if I'm going to make the pot green, I don't want to make the tablecloth green. So let's see if I can come up with another color for that. Try a little bit of this blue here. Now the thing is, you can make that a checkerboard. You can, you know, here you could fill that all in. Now normally, to be on the safe side, I usually start, when I paint, I start with a lighter color. Lighter colors, and then because it's easier. If I put a color on too heavy at first, and I want to make it lighter, well, sometimes it's hard to erase it and lift it out with a brush. So I just start light because I can always go darker. Now you can do anything you want with a tablecloth. We can put some little decorations in there. You can put some shadows. We won't put the shadows on yet, but I'll show you how you can add the shadows, kind of the finishing touches. That's a different shade of blue on this side. So what I'm going to do is purposely keep that way and just do some of that color over here. Make it like a little texture, shadows on the tablecloth. So we're coming across in here, something like that. Now, you know, even when you're doing this type of style, it makes it easier for you to paint it in. You know, trying to make all that fussy little pattern of design. You're just filling in the blocks, so to speak. Just fill that in. Now, if I want, I can leave some of the flowers themselves. I could leave some white. Which ones I'd pick to be white? Maybe one or two or whatever. But having said that, when you say you're going to do that, you still have to consider the petals having some shadow, okay? So for now, let's leave these two white. They're kind of across from each other. And I like blue, because I've used blue already. But I'm going to use a darker shade of blue. Now you can stick with the big brush if you want, or you can put that down for a second and go to a smaller brush. Okay? Of course, if you're doing a large canvas, you can stick with the big brush just about the whole time you're doing the picture. So, what would they say? Blue, right? Okay, let's try it. Paste this in. Now, what I like to do, sometimes, especially with watercolor, I like to blend some of the color in, but also I like to show a little bit of highlight. In other words, there's going to be sort of sometimes a lighter side, and then there's going to be a shadow side. So having said that, here I can make a decision what I want to do with this thing. Now that's a little space there. Let's fill it in and make that look like a petal also, so we don't see too much white. Now what I'm talking about here, you can take, for example, before the blue dries, you can pat it. Just pick up some of the paint and give it a little bit more of a highlight. Okay? You know what's popular now is using ink, colored ink, and on Yupo paper. That's a plastic-based paper, so it doesn't kind of absorb through as much. And that's becoming popular. Everybody's trying different experimental things. See how I can lighten that up? Now, the other one is similar to that. Let's paint this one. Okay, again. Now, if you go a little bit outside of an edge, that doesn't matter. Well, it might matter, but sometimes on certain things. But usually, if you're doing a floral painting, you don't have to stay that rigid inside the lines. Somebody will pick me up on that. They'll say, well, you should try to stay in the line. But sometimes you have a little accident, the brush goes outside. Now, again, you can pat that with a paper towel. Sometimes you have to hit it more than once. And see, I can put some highlight on that petal. There you go. It just, it kind of, watercolor is a funny thing. If you leave a little bit of white showing in it, it doesn't hurt at all. In fact, that's one of the characteristics, I think, of watercolor, that you let some of the white show through, obviously. Now, where are we? Oh, I'm going to make these probably orange. Getting towards Halloween time, isn't it? I need the orange. Now, that's one thing I'm running out of, some orange. I probably have a tube home somewhere, but I don't always bring it. So what I do here, I take some yellow and add a little bit of red in it and make an orange. Now I usually start with a lighter color. I'll start with yellow a lot of times and then add a little bit of red into it, mix it around till let's see if this looks orange. Not bad. Sort of a little bit deeper orange, but nonetheless. Yeah, something like that. And just have that flare out. Ended up with another different brush. I don't know why. But let's see, here we go. Something like that. And again, you can hit it. Make sure you use a clean spot on your towel, though, when you work in it. So you can hit it with it, lighten it up here and there. Okay, something like that. Now, oh, this one's similar to those. I got to continue using a little bit more orange down here. Here we go. Just kind of fill that in a bit. And if a little bit of white shows through, that's okay. If it's too noticeable, just hit it with some color. Now, let's hit this a little bit, blot it. Because a lot of times, you know, when you're working and you don't have a lot of time to finish something, what I do is not blot an area, give it more time to dry. But if you're working and have to have it done in a hurry, well, you can't let those puddles take too much time to dry or to absorb into the paper. So I just hit them, they dry a little bit faster. Now, if you want these colors to be in here to be sort of more white, you still might want to put some shadow in. And what I do a lot of times is I kind of take some of my blue, which I already have, just take a little pinch of, up in the corner, take some Payne's Gray, and add a little bit of that into the blue. And I really want to make it more of a bluish color. I don't want it too dark either. It's supposed to be more of it's supposed to still be a white petal, but it has shadows on it. So here's where it gets a little bit tricky in places. You just start off, you hit a few spots here and there. Now, if it looks all right, you don't want a hard edge all around. I just soften the edge off with the brush. Just water on the brush and just soften it out. Again, let's get a clean towel. Again, if you're doing this, if you want to blot it, kind of hit it before it settles into the paper. See how I can kind of lighten that up a bit? And it has shadow in it, but it's still predominantly a white flower. So let's do the next one. A little bit here, a little bit over there. And what I do sometimes is just wet it. Mostly water on the brush and just pull some of that out. If it has any hard edges on the inside, especially petals, sometimes I just soften them out. Okay, and you can still blot it a little bit, pick up some of the noticeable puddles. See how you can leave a little bit of highlight in there. Now, I got this little flower in the middle. Let's see. I got a lot of blue in here, so why don't we make that? Let's try some pink. I don't know. If I use pink, maybe I could keep it lighter. But that's the only place I have some pink. So what I have to do sometimes is say, oh, I want that pink somewhere else. So, and I'll have to make, what's that, where do I have room? Oh, I just put a dot over in here. And that's a loopy petal. 1, 2, 3, 4. Why not add another pink flower? Or add another 2 flowers there. You can paint this in. Now that's what you have to remember a lot about flowers or doing anything, whether it's flowers or anything. A lot of times, if you look at artwork in the museums and stuff, the artist has used that particular color more than once. And like if you're doing leaves, sometimes what I do is put a little bit of background color in, like use a little bit of yellow, like that. Now these leaves, you want to make them similar color. I don't know what's happening here. I'm just going to hit that with a couple of dots. Put some yellow in there. There you go, something like that. Oh, missed one. Here you go. Now, if you find something that's not connecting, you can also come back either now or later, and somehow you can connect something up. Eventually, you all want them to go into the pot, end up into the pot. So now here might come into there. Connect things together here. Okay, now, how's that drying? Oh, good. What else we have? Oh, I put some yellow on the leaves. Now I have to take a little bit of the green, mix it in with some blue. See, I'm going to get an off green. Let's see what happens here. Not bad. Paint right over the yellow. You can let some of the yellow show through. Something like that. Okay, a little bit more here, over there. Now, you may find that you want to get a little bit more filler in there. And what I do a lot of times is I take, you can get away with this a little bit and just add some green. Just add some green into the background. And usually, you know, when you're looking at a plant pot, you kind of look at a whole cluster of leaves and flowers. So you don't know quite what's in back there, but you might not want to see too much into the background. I just put some little dabs. I'm notorious for being a dabber. I'm always talking about put a little dab here and dab there, something up in here. what you want to do is get it to kind of flow a little bit over the edges. You don't want to make it look like mechanical, wiry, you know, straight edges and flowers. Give them a little bit of too much white showing there. Fill that in, fill that in. Kind of dab around a little bit. Now, the beauty of this, once you let it dry, you can always come back and zap it up with a little bit more color. Now, some of these little plant pots, a lot of them, the clay pots, are usually sort of a brick-colored gray, or you can make them, like I said, the plastic ones are usually a darker color. I got a lot of green there, but I haven't used too much red. So why don't we do this? Why don't we make a sort of a deeper, sort of like a maroon color? Let's borrow a little bit of Payne's gray there. Kind of darken it down. I'm trying to make a sort of a brick color. See how close I get to brick. I don't know. There you go. Push that up into there. I mean, if it's not perfect, you know, you have to realize it is water color, and that's what I like about it. You don't have to be picky about it. You can be kind of more fluid, kind of dab around, and fill this in here. It's more of grape color. Have some plant pots, sort of like a grape color. Okay. Okay, you got that. Now you see now, in a way, you don't know exactly where the light source is coming from. And usually you can pick it up on the flowers, the petals. Definitely the plant pot. I almost said plate pot. Plant pot. And you can pick it up there. So having said that, I don't know if we got this dark enough yet, or the paint dry, but if I decide the light is coming from the left, I'm going to go over, it gives us another coat of paint on this side. And of course this can be kind of follow the contour. Just some darker shadow over here. See on this side. See how that makes it, automatically it brings it out. It makes it more three-dimensional. And I just sort of pull it out, soften it down, something like that. Now, having said that, it gets a shadow, so you're going to have some shadow also on the table. So I'm going back into the blue again with a little bit of Payne's gray. And let's see if I can put some shadow on the table. I don't want that to get, that's better, I guess. But now here's the shadow of the plant pot, a little bit underneath, and then over here, right up here, and across there. Okay. Now that particular shade of blue probably clashes a little bit here, so I'm going to have to do something drastic here. I want that not to be a hard edge. We could just soften this out. Soften it out. And why not make this side a little bit, some of that shade in there. Just blend it over. So your shadow at least looks a little bit more convincing. Now the flowers themselves can have a little bit of darker. Sometimes when you paint a flower, they fade, the colors lighten up. And So you may want to perk your colors up a little bit. So you come back in and dab around. Now, that's a little bit too strong. It's got too much red in it. So again, here we go with a paper towel. Lighten it up. Okay, pull that out. But I haven't made the flower a little, perked it up with the color. Let's come in on this one. Same way on this side. The left side. Perk up the color. Maybe these the lighter white ones need a little bit more. Let's put a little bit more color. Maybe a little bit more texture. And some of the green needs to be contrasted too. It's a little bit same shade as the blue. So having said that, I'm using the same brush for about everything. Let's see if I can come back in here with some strong, darker greens. Again, I jump around. No matter what I paint, I don't finish one particular area. I'm kind of jumping around a bit. I don't know why. I just got in the habit of doing that. You certainly probably wouldn't paint the side of your house this way. You'd have plenty of unpainted areas. Okay. I think we used to call that, if you missed a spot on the house or any wall that you're painting, if you miss a place, they call that a holiday. You took time off, didn't paint it. I don't know if that helped to perk it up a little bit more. Now, because the board was real flat, I've got water settling in here. So if I have too much water, I just pull it around, spread it around a little bit. And if it's a little bit too much, I just pick it up with the brush or the. Well, yeah, you can pick it up with the brush, but use a paper towel. Here you go. Something like that. You don't like that shape? Soften it down. Wet it a little bit. Now you can keep pulling things out and make a painting always stronger and build up the contrast. But this kind of gives you an idea. Now, you can get real picky, and if you were looking at a real vase or flower, what would you see? You'd see a little extra shadow here and there. This edge here, usually it would overlap. What you see is just a little edge of shadow right under there. Right under there, like that. And just kind of, if the edge is too sharp, what I do is just soften that edge down. Something like that. See, it just makes it pop out. Now, I still think that the flower part is still floating. Okay, it's got too much. I'd say it's got too much of a light color underneath. So we'll fix that. We're going to make that a lot darker. I don't want as much blue there. I wanted to get it more of a grayer color. Get too much blue on the brush. Okay, let's pull this out. Sometimes if it's a tablecloth, I have it kind of break up the edge. So this edge isn't as flat. Okay. And if this will help. Not too bad. sometimes you have to let it set overnight, and then you look at it in the morning, and you know exactly what needs to be touched up. So a lot of times a painting isn't finished until you really look at it when it's completely dry. Take that out. Okay. All right. Now this still could be a little bit darker down there. This probably shows up a little bit on the heavy side. So you might want to take some of that, soften that out. I don't know if that helps. Anyway, take some of that out of there. Okay, so anyhow, now another thing, there's so much little fussy detail that you can put into a picture. You can even make the wall, if you want, you can take a little bit of color here, and you can make the shadow on the wall of the plants. I don't know if that helps it jump out a little bit, you know, some shadow in the background. Now, those things are always there. A lot of times, the artists, when they paint, they don't pick it up as much, whether they don't want to, you know, tamper with it too much. But all the professional painters, the real, you know, superstars of the art world, they always leave a little bit of back shadow in here. And where it's straighter, you can make that softer there. I don't know if whether they need that line down there or not. Yeah, take that out. But there's always some sort of a back shadow. And I'm quite sure when this dries out, that's going to be much lighter than that. There might be a little bit more shadow up in here, a little bit more in here. And you can just kind of soften it out, blend it out. That's another thing, too. We don't always remember to talk about it. But you don't have to have like solid hard edges around everything unless you're trying to make it look like a stained glass window. But you can leave it a little bit open on some of the edges. See, like this right in through here, that's sort of a solid edge. But you don't have to leave it like that. Now, a lot of times I squint and look at a picture and I'll say, oh, this is running together. So what I have to do is come in, I'll see how this flower runs in, maybe into that one, and which it does. So what you have to do a lot of time is you have to kind of put some little blocks in there. Put a darker color in there to break that up. If I can get that, yeah, that's better. See how I can separate them a little bit more? This is kind of together a little bit. So you can break that up and whatnot. This needs more contrast, so sometimes you don't have to do the petal itself, just paint the background darker. And that will make a certain petal stand out. See, it jumps out, this jumps out more, just with a darker background. Okay. Pull this down a little bit. Okay. So I'm squinting now. When you squint, you really can kind of see what really needs to be brought out. Like this leaf here needs to be quite a bit darker, just to counterbalance something that might be dark. Not this dark, but make it a little darker. So it counterbalances something that's off here or down there. You're always looking around to balance it off. Okay. Let's make this a little deeper in here. See, all these shadows really perk it up because they make certain things jump out. A little bit more in here. You kind of get the idea of it. See, it already looks better if you kind of give it a little bit more strength in the contrast. Okay, having said that, why not give this a little bit more strength in here? Right down in here, down the side. A little bit over here. Okay. This looks like kind of a little bit weak there. And maybe all it needs is just a little bit of a darker contrast of something at the background. The shadow on the wall, I don't know. But see, you kind of try to balance it off. This to this, to this, up in here. That's looking better. Looking better. Now this is a little bit too light, the background shadow. What happens is sometimes it dries out and it needs to be a little darker. Okay, that may help that. Usually the shadows in the background, they don't have too much texture, they're just sort of a solid shadow. Put a shadow over here. Kind of balance this to this. Okay, that helps that. So now, what happens is that as you paint long enough, and I can't say that I've painted lately too much, but when you get used to painting, you sort of get a sense of what it might need to finish it off. And when I do a lot of these classes, I have to kind of get started a little bit ahead of time. If I'm going to do a painting that involves a lot of fussy stuff, you really need a little bit more time to, to finish it off. Okay, I just putting around here, filling in some of the spots, some of the texture. That looks pretty good. It probably, like I said, it will probably look better in the morning, and I can know what needs a little bit more work. When you squint and look at it, a lot of times you don't pick it up. A little darker shadow there. Kind of gets kind of busy. So that's getting better. Okay, my yellow wall in the kitchen. Okay, well, anyways, so now what I've been doing lately is putting masking tape on. And before I was placing the mat on it, and that just took a little longer. But this will give you an idea what it would look like if, this is sort of a false mat, but this will give you an idea what it would look like if it was matted. The only trouble is you have to make sure that when you press the tape down, you get it down on the inside edge. Press it down so the paint doesn't get underneath. Guess what? I started to lift this up, but I'm taking some of the face of the paint. That's a pretty good. That's a pretty good tape. It probably sticks too much. Now, if you have a little thing like that, you want to touch it up, I come back and just take and redo that spot. This is a good lesson on repairing. Okay, I put a piece of fresh tape down, see? And then I come back in, and you can moisten some of the blue you have, or take some of the blue you have and just touch it up. Just touch it up. Everybody would never know. Fill it in a little bit more. Oh, there you go. Wow. Yeah, you can touch that up. Now, this tape is very, I guess it's very good tape. It might be a little bit too sticky. So, you gotta remember to hold it, when you pull the tape off on an angle, it takes some of the paper. Maybe it has a lot to do with the quality of your paper too. This may not have been, I usually try to use cotton rag rather than wood pulp paper. Yeah, that's okay. Now, a little bit of a repair here. Pull that out. Okay, you just be careful taking this back off. It should be okay. Ah, I touched it up. Not bad. So, the only other thing you have to do is check it in the morning. If it needs to be perked up a little bit more, you can touch it up. And I usually take a pen and find an area, and I put my name in, BH, and then I usually put my last name, Macomber, and I print that across the bottom. Kind of not overly noticeable, but it's there. You don't want to put your signature in that takes away from your picture. So that's about that. Now, like I said, I've been, the last couple of weeks, I've been using like the grid and idea. And the grid is very good if you just want to take the paper and just take any paper you have and just take a ruler and break it up. And then if you don't want to make just square shapes, do what I do sometimes. I take the square and just round off the square on the inside and make a circle. Or you can make like a Y shape, like this, yeah. Do it like this, but you're staying inside of the circle. Let's say joy. Why not J-O-Y, joy, and then whatever letters you want to use. But that's a good way to do lettering too sometimes, rather than trying to do it freehand. Just make the block and then fit the letter in the block. So anyways, this is kind of what we've got today. All right, it gives you an idea of what we have. Distribution of color, shadow, some texture, contrast, lights and darks, and so forth. And a variety of maybe shapes. You could have a plant pot. Sometimes it has the same type of flower in it, but then you'd vary the shape. Maybe one flower is bent, so you only see a sort of part of the flower, you know. But this is a good way to start off using the grid idea. Okay, so that's that. Now, what I haven't been doing is too many animal pictures, and I don't do a lot of times when I paint, I don't put people in the pictures, And so what I probably should do one of these days is get back and do an animal, maybe just a portrait, and then also do maybe like a scene where there's people walking on the sidewalk or something like that, or raking leaves, or in the garden, you know, what they'd be doing, and things like that. But we'll see what we can come up with. Of course, my favorite thing to do is I like landscapes, birch trees and all that, bridges, old anything, old barns and whatnot. So that's it. So thanks a lot for being with us, and brush us up, and we'll see you next time. Okay? Thank you.